welcome to another episode of AgWarriors. We're in Grand Prairie, Alberta, in a very fancy podcast room.
It's very fancy in here.
Very fancy. Also known as the Exhibitor Lounge at the Peace Country Farm Show. And came all the way to Alberta and ran into somebody that I know quite well from Manitoba that has just kind of exploded over the last 5 years, I'll say, doing cover crops. And I said, hey, Joe, let's record a podcast episode and talk about what the heck you've been doing.
And I was like, hell no, Jeremy, that sounds like it sucks.
Yeah, you put me off for 3 days, but persistence won out. I mean, you did the Lamar halftime walk-in yesterday.
Our company Slack loved that.
Yeah, the whitest version of that ever. I actually watched it. I sent it to somebody, and they're like, you guys actually put that out? I'm like, yeah, it's funny. They're like, no, that's just bad. I'm like,
our Alberta territory manager said, he said that might actually go viral because it's the whitest thing I've ever seen.
Ever, yeah. I will tell you this. So now that we recorded that and put it out, they've been popping up. And I saw a baseball moms one of like travel team baseball moms doing it. And they were worse than us.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
We won't go viral.
Yeah, they were so bad. And I was like, oh yeah, we're not that bad. But we're not here to talk about Kendrick and walking into the Peace Country. So I want to talk Covers & Co., but I don't want to start there.
Yep.
Let's start because it's something you're really passionate about, but that has to come from somewhere.
Big time.
So, I mean, I know you from playing ball against you. I remember the first time, so when we came into the league, it was like, oh, you're playing this team, that team. I think I met you. Did I meet you at the league meeting?
I think so, yeah.
And I was like, okay. And Clearwater, we were like, oh, these guys are, we're not going to have to worry about these guys very much. And you and you can swear on this podcast.
Wonderful.
But you came out and threw like a gem with this dirty curveball. And I'm like, who is it? Like, what is going even on right now? And you're still playing. I'm not. But so, born and raised in Clearwater?
Born and raised in Clearwater. I tell people I sleep where I was conceived. Live on the family farm.
That's weird. That's a weird thing to say to people. Okay.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, grew up in Clearwater. Mixed grain and, first we were pigs, and then we were livestock. Graduated high school, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so did what every farm kid does. Took an ag diploma, the ag diploma program, graduated.
U of M?
University of Manitoba. At that time, I had started tinkering with farming with my dad in the summer times, but it was never something I was going to do. Went back and I got my degree and graduated with my degree. Still came home. We were making pretty good money. If you remember 2007, grain prices kind of went nuts.
Yeah.
And it was easy. There was a recipe. I could put canola in the ground, cheap rent, harvest it, combine it. Life was easy.
So what generation, you just skipped through that all like it was just no big deal, but what generation farm, or what generation are you? Are you third
I'm the
or fourth?
Third generation on our farm. Our homestead farm is just a few miles down the road.
So you not only sleep where you were conceived, you sleep where your dad was conceived? Yeah.
Correct.
You just wanted to make it even weirder. So, and growing up, obviously, you brothers, sisters?
Yeah, so I got, we got kind of a weird family. I got twin older brothers and then a middle sister. And then my sister and I are actually twins as well. So we got two sets of twins in the same family. Yeah. I got the luckiest guy in the world, chef. Like we weren't wealthy by any stretch, but I grew up in the greatest community on planet Earth. I'm so proud to call Clearwater my home, the people that are in it, my family, my friends. I'm just absolutely blessed with amazing relationships where I grew up. My siblings and I was just on the phone with my brother who actually lives in Edmonton out here. No, everyone gets along.
Any of them involved in the farm?
Yeah, so I do farm. I farm with my brother Sheldon and his partner Derek. They were, I mean, the timing couldn't have worked out better because as Covers & Co. was taking off and I was spending, 8 months on the road, we were short of help on the farm and some of the practices that we had changed. We were starting to see glimpses of what the farm could be from a risk mitigation standpoint, from a profitability standpoint, a soil improvement standpoint, that we got the farm to the point where we could actually bring family members back in. So now because
you couldn't before, it wasn't big enough, couldn't support it.
Hell no. No,
Right.
no, and we were heading, from a financial standpoint, we were heading in the wrong direction. So now we're, my wife Melanie and I, we're 50 partners with my brother Sheldon and his partner Derek.
And what about your dad?
Dad gets up, works on the farm all day, every day.
Yeah.
He is a vital cog. He's at home working, feeding cows or something right now. Doesn't have a financial interest or management interest, but he's having more fun now because
Do you pay him, or is
the
he
guy
free
just
labor?
loves to work. Oh no,
You don't pay him
It is
at
the
all?
opposite of child labor.
Senior labor?
Senior citizen labor.
Oh man, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm the bad guy in Happy Gilmore. You know, he makes the
Yeah, you're Ben Stiller. Yeah, making the old people knit.
My fingers hurt. Oh,
Too bad, Dad. Go feed the cows. Oh, that's funny. So, and I want to talk a little bit about Clearwater, because I do think that that's a big part of your story.
Big time.
You know, I remember coaching ball, playing ball, and coming to the Clearwater tournament. Your family, you were a big part of that, still are.
Well, Clearwater's a town of 65 people, so
Right.
everyone has to pull their weight. And we're just...
But teams come from all over Canada.
It's still, to this day, the biggest open baseball tournament in all of Canada.
Yeah.
And so we get like 12 ball diamonds. COVID has we're still seeing the lingering effects of COVID. I think last year we had about 40 teams. Normally we're in around the like 70, 80 baseball teams.
Yeah.
Get about a few thousand people out to come play ball. And I would be remiss if I didn't touch on the Harvest Moon Society, which for 10 years I was a board member and very, very involved.
What is the Harvest Moon Society?
So it's the Harvest Moon Society. The theme of the organization is healthy lands, healthy communities. So it's a focus on the awesome way of life that rural living can bring. So, but talking about, where our food comes from, how can we do that healthier, how can we improve the land, and our fundraiser for the year is called the Harvest Moon Festival. So we have, it's a folk music festival. We have bands from all over Canada and the United States come. We have about 2,500 people that come from
How have I never heard of this?
Oh, you must. The greatest weekend of the year is the Harvest Moon Society.
What weekend is it?
It's usually the third weekend in September. So it's kind of the last nice camping weekend of the year. Great music, just wonderful people. I'm very involved with the actual day, just because everyone has to be. But it's a festival that brings somewhere between $500,000 and $800,000 of outside community money to the community, and it keeps the rink going for the year, the hall going, the restaurant, store, you name it. It has been the lifeblood of our community, along with the baseball tournament. But what it's done is it has made Clearwater not a destination, but it's just Clearwater hasn't suffered the fate of most communities that are
65 people.
65 people.
Yeah.
We're actually a place that young people are moving back to and getting involved with, because we just have an amazing group of human beings, volunteers, that they see it's something bigger than themselves. It's a community, right? And I'm just so proud to call it home.
Oh, that's super cool. So one of the things that I think, and it's something that I've talked to some other people that are doing, shining a light in agriculture, is people that are outside agriculture don't necessarily listen to these kinds of things.
For sure.
And we want more people to understand what rural living's like what taking care of the land is, how hard people like yourself and farmers in general are working to feed the world. So maybe, in a glimpse, somebody who lives in, we'll say Seattle, Washington, that's where I went to high school and stuff. It's
Beautiful city.
Beautiful city, but what's it like to be can you paint a picture of what it means to be living in a town like Clearwater? Because there's Clearwaters all across Canada.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
all across the world.
All across the world. So, how do you explain that? Like, what are the benefits? What's life like in a small town, rural town?
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Of course, I'm 100% biased, but it to me, because it feels like home. But being involved with, the Harvest Moon Society is a great example. A lot of our board comes from all over Winnipeg. We've got members that are in Saskatchewan. Everyone talks about Clearwater. It's just a special place. So part of it is the actual geography. We're on the edge of a valley. It's just absolutely gorgeous. But it's the people that make it special. It really is a place where most of the people that are living there believe in something that is bigger than themselves, that this community is special, and make it feel like home. So we're still very fortunate. We've got 65 people. We've got an active skating rink. We've got an active curling rink. Still have senior and minor league baseball. Of course, the Harvest Moon Society.
Do you know all 65 people's names?
I could list them off for you right now if you wanted me to.
Really? Go. Give me 65.
This is going to make for some exhilarating podcasting material.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. That's cool. No, everybody, that's rare.
Oh, yeah. And cost of living, a huge issue. You can buy a house in Clearwater for, $75,000, probably get you one of the nicest houses. Now, one positive thing COVID did was, not everyone's going to offices anymore, and that lifestyle is just, to be able to walk out your front doorstep and be in nature and not be secluded. I think a lot of people think rural communities, the daily grind, they're like, I just want to escape it all. But what I love about our community, you get the escape, but you get the human beings with that, and people that have we don't agree on everything, like most communities, but what we do is it's just people that are willing to give time and go out of their way to help the community, which is, I don't live anywhere else, obviously, but I'm like, that's just, from my perspective, that's just something that doesn't exist everywhere.
You're 100% right. We see that. We're seeing that today with just around the world.
Yeah.
I think that clearly you recognize that you are somewhere special and are thankful to be there. And I think that as human beings, we've lost that connection with other humans. And when we get into big towns, people don't even wave at each other anymore.
Sure.
Sometimes I walk around just smiling at people just to see if they'll smile back. Or are they so wrapped up that they don't even know what's happening?
I'll tell you a good story about waving. It's in my brain. It's like a tick. Right. I'll be driving downtown Winnipeg with my hand on the steering wheel.
Giving the old thing, and everybody's like, you should be careful. They might shoot you. Right?
And some of my wife and I, amazing human being. Your wife would be the same type of thing.
Yeah, There's not married anymore. On the podcast.
Well, hopefully I don't suffer the same fate. But we don't tiff, we don't do anything. Some of the biggest fights we've had, I'm like, honey, you got to wave at people when you drive by.
And she's like, that's funny. Well, I've met your wife, and she comes to all the ball, and
well, and she was one raised outside Winnipeg, moved to our community, and absolutely loves it. She loves the farm life, but it's like she never had a community when she was growing up like what we have here, and she's just fit in just like a hand on a glove.
That's awesome. So let's get back to farming a little bit. So grew up on the farm, like you said. When did you start realizing that the way you were doing it just wasn't going to be sustainable? You needed to start thinking, you are an outside the box thinker, and we're going to try to stay away from some of the crazy ideas. We might, who knows? But when did you start thinking, is there a different way?
So I started at the University of Manitoba in 2005. By 2007, grain prices had gone nuts. I won the farming lottery. I was renting land at $15 an acre and selling canola for $15 a bushel. It was, and I looked at the old man, 19-year-old punk kid, my bank account was full, and I thought, how did you fuck this up? This farming isn't that hard.
Right, super easy.
So I was super happy just doing what I was doing, but I was very fortunate in 2007. I took an organics class at the University of Manitoba. My professor was Martin Entz, and I'm not an organic farmer, never had an interest in doing that, but Martin, and God bless him, started introducing our class, and I picked up on it obviously probably more than most, understanding carbon to nitrogen, why rotations are important, the concept of intercropping, which was foreign to me. 2 years at the diploma.
Plant canola, harvest canola, look at the bank account.
So we, next year, hopefully make some money, go back to canola. Yeah, and so that's when it started. I started getting a little curious, and I think it was 2008, of course, grain prices went high. Well, what followed with it was fertilizer prices. So a neighbor of mine said to me, he says, there's a field day going on in North Dakota, and we're gonna go to this guy's place by the name of Gabe Brown. And I thought, well, open, trying to take an open perspective on things. I thought, okay, I'll hop in with you. And we toured Gabe Brown's place, and leaving that place only 2 hours from our farm. And this guy was using cover cropping, which was something I'd never heard about. Long rotations, integrating livestock, no fertilizer, a very reduced herbicide at this time. Now, of course, Gabe is no synthetics of any sort. And came home and started making some changes then. We started
in 08 already.
Yeah, and not big changes. We were still very intensively, at this time we were tilling, we were abusing glyphosate, fungicides were
abusing glyphosate.
yeah, that addiction is as tough as the one I've got in my mouth right now.
Yeah.
So we started making some changes, nothing like drastic. I did that until probably 08 till like the mid 2000s, maybe not, early 2010s, and kept going to conferences, started networking a bit, but very much we were
traditional.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe a little bit more rotation, but anyway, what happened then is land prices went nuts, fertilizer prices went nuts, machinery prices, and we were growing bushels more than we ever had, but we just weren't making that much money. And I was to the point where I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I wasn't enjoying farming that much. At that point, I'd never really convinced myself this is my career. It was just the next things will come along, and I'll go do that. So,
were you doing cattle the whole time?
Yep.
Like, did you grow up doing cattle, or were you?
Yep, you betcha. So we got cattle when I was maybe 10.
Okay.
But 07 when I started farming, I bought my first cows. So I actually did. I was farming at the time, but I wanted to do something else. I was looking for an exit lane away from farming. I started working for a hog nutrition company, so they actually trained me to be a swine nutritionist. It didn't take me very long inside conventional hog barns to know that wasn't something I wanted to do.
Right.
But I'll tell you what it did do is I got to learn about biology and chemistry from a nutritional standpoint, and some of this stuff was overlapping with this movement that I'd been kind of following, this soil health movement. And little alarm bells started going off. It's like this same thing that's going on in my digestive system, this Gabe Brown or Ray Archuleta or Chris Nichols, they were talking about it, but it was going on in the soil. And so I wasn't smart enough to start putting this together that we were all connected, but it was interesting. So in 2017, I quit that job, and I remember it clear as day, shoveling out the last bin bottom of the last bin that I had, knowing that I was going to be about $80,000 short on my operating line. And we had.
What year was that?
That was 2017, and we had grown pretty decent crops. Like, I was happy with the yield.
And you lost 80 grand.
80 grand. I had to go to the bank and term that out, and so I did that. But I had a very frank conversation with my old man that I'm like, listen, the trajectory here is clear. We're going broke.
Right.
And if we just keep doing what we're doing, we're gonna be broke, and we're gonna pass the farm over to the bank.
Right.
So I said.
Were you married at that point?
No. I've only been married for 2 years, but Melanie and I, we were together.
Okay,
at the time. We'd been together for 12 years before. So I said, I'm like, if I'm going broke, I'm gonna do it on my terms, on my management. I'm not gonna do it
the way that everybody else has gone broke.
Giving all my money away. I'm like, I'm not okay with that. So 2018, I sowed my first full season cover crop. a very good friend of mine at the time, Travis Avery, he's now my business partner. He was starting to go down the soil health path. He was working for Taurus Ag at the time, but they were doing some biologicals, they were doing soil testing. So I pitched him on the idea that, hey, there's this idea around a full season cover crop, one whole year dedicated to sunlight capture, biological stimulation, healing the soil so we can start reducing inputs. So Trav said, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to document this from a soil test standpoint, and we can get some data and whatnot. So he said, sure, let's do it. And I sowed that crop, and there was not one night that I didn't tuck that crop into bed. If we got home from Winkler at 2 o'clock in the morning after a ball game, I was grabbing a beer, hopping on the quad and heading to the cover crop, because it was
one field.
One field. 30 acres changed my damn life. And it's because, Chef, I had a degree in agriculture, and I had a soil test saying that land's gonna grow absolutely nothing. But because I mixed these species together based on a blend that some guy in North Dakota gave me, it started growing, and we weren't seeing mineral deficiencies. Well, what the hell? I knew the uptake removal chart inside and out. Trav and I both knew how to read a soil test inside and out, and yet what was happening in front of our very eyes
was not
what I was taught. So what the hell was going on? So as the year went, I just became more, and you understand my personality because you've got one just like it, I became addicted.
Right.
Absolutely addicted to understanding what was going on there. And from there...
How excited were you? Call it August.
I can't describe it. Yeah. I was. This is going to make me sound like a crazy person.
You are a crazy person.
But I was going out at different times of the day and laying in the middle of that field and counting the different pollinator species that I saw out there, because it was the first time I had ever heard a field. You know, because I could just hear the life and the activity that was going on. And something happened to me when I was out there. I felt better. It was, I mean, now I know you would know, most people know it as like, that's meditation.
Right.
But that's what was
grounding meditation, that's what you were doing.
100%. Yeah. And just like, because none of this was in a book. And back in 2017, in 2025, I don't love the term regenerative agriculture, just that's a me thing. But no one had heard of regenerative agriculture. It was a small underground soil health movement. I didn't know that was called a full season cover crop anyway. And so I knew by August, I knew my life had changed, is what I knew.
Because you were still farming with your dad at the time.
Yeah.
What was your dad, because you're an emotional person, like spiritual person. I mean, anybody who knows you knows that's how you roll. So I can completely picture you laying out in the field. Like I could see that in my head, and I love that picture. But I don't think your dad's the same way. Your dad is more of a traditional farmer. What was his thoughts on it?
I tell people to this day, I'm like, God, hope this doesn't happen, but if I died tomorrow, my dad would probably go back to tillage. Yeah. But man, my dad is the most amazing. He's my best friend on planet Earth. He understands me and respects me as a human being. He understood I was the next generation, and I give him so much credit, because I meet a ton of producers that want to make the switch, but their 70-year-old man still makes all the shots. So my dad on the farm that he paid for and not passed down, but helped transition the next generation, he worked all day, every day on that farm and doing things that he didn't necessarily agree with from a management standpoint. How many people can say that?
Very few, very few. You were not wrong, and I mean, I've seen it. I've got friends that farm now that I'm in agriculture, that their dads won't let them do it. They won't even let them buy a $2,000 piece of equipment that might change the farm, much less change all the farming practices. So that is kudos to your dad for doing that.
Well, and I got to give him even more credit, because in 2017, I don't dip my toe into anything. If I like an idea, I pretty much jump in. Yeah. And at that time, I hardly had a community. There wasn't the information that there was now. There wasn't the network that there was now. There wasn't the popularity or understanding from other farms of what I was trying to do. Yeah. So we had some wrecks, and my poor old man had to go into the coffee shop and.
So what was the worst wreck that you had?
How long is this podcast?
Yeah, well, as long as we want it to be. There's no time on it.
I'll tell you a story about our July 1st baseball tournament. So I had a concept of an idea of sowing soybeans on 30-inch spacing, and then doing a pre-burn herbicide and one in-crop herbicide, and then coming back about the third week in June and seeding millet, solid seeding millet into the crop, and basically the millet would just grow between the 30-inch rows.
Right.
The timing should match up with harvest. You combine it, simple to separate, and now I've spread out my risk. I've reduced my costs. Great. The morning of the July 1st baseball tournament, I had seeded the millet, and the plan was get it germinated, but before it comes out of the ground, give it one last herbicide pass. So that morning, I went and checked if the millet was germinated, and it was, but it wasn't out of the ground yet, so perfect. Tomorrow morning, I got to get in the sprayer, and I got to go spray this. So went and played ball. Driving home about 10 o'clock at night, I stopped and checked the millet again, and it was out of the ground. So now I couldn't. So now I couldn't spray the soybeans, couldn't spray the millet, and there was definitely weeds coming as well, and it was a complete write-off. Right along the road. Not a complete write-off, but it was a long summer driving by that crop and trying to explain not every day, 5 times a day.
Yeah. And were you laying in that field too?
No, I wanted to forget that field ever existed.
Oh, and your dad had to go into the coffee shop and hear about the crazy gardeners.
Why the hell did you do that?
What's Joe doing? Yeah.
And God love that man. He didn't really understand what Joe was trying to do.
Right.
But he cared about me.
Does he understand now?
Yeah. What has happened now, and he understood to a certain extent because he's not involved in the financials anymore. But I still do crazy shit that he's uncomfortable with. Last spring, I was doing cropping budgets and realized, hey, there's no money to be made in farming this year, and I was going to spend about 350 to 400 grand putting in a crop. So I figured the cattle market was going to stay hot. Price insurance, I can insure those calves. So I went and bought 200 cows last spring when the market was higher than anyone had ever seen at that point. Right. Believe me, everyone thought I was clinically insane, including my old man. Boy, he did not want to do it. But 5 months later, I mentioned to him, I said, I think we're going to sell about 100 of those cows. Well, why would we sell 100 of those cows? So, no, he is, I respect that man more than any human being on planet Earth for the care that he has given me. It would have been really easy to say, I'm uncomfortable with this. I think we're not heading in the right direction. It took time, and those growing pains hurt like hell. But, I mean, I'm stoked to say our farm is just in a unbelievable resilient spot right now. We're going into 2025 not utilizing an operating loan for the first time.
Not a dollar.
And by the end of 2025, assuming everything goes well, we'll be down to land mortgages in debt.
Wow. And that's a pretty big turnaround in 8 years from losing 80 grand and having an operating line, having all of those things, and thinking like, we're done.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
2017, I think that's what you said.
Yep.
That was the first year. How long did it take, so 2018, 2019, how long did it take before you were fully implemented on the farm after what you saw?
2017, we just did it. The whole farm.
The whole farm. You just said
intercropped every single.
So what'd you grow?
Well, I told you about the soybeans millet. Yeah. We were doing peas canola, and that transitioned into forage peas and canola, which was an absolute just the most money we've made in grain farming. Anything we tried to grow was not commodities. So I said to myself when I started, I'm like, if I'm shipping this stuff to the elevator, I'm losing, because anyone can do that.
Right.
I need to find a market that is not the elevator that's willing to pay me a premium on my product. So forage peas canola was a big one for us. We started getting into grass seed production and annual ryegrass. Oats and peas, another good one. We would do like grow oats underseeded, intercropped with Italian ryegrass, underseeded, every single acre. The focus of our farm is cows first. So make sure the cows are looked after, taken care of, and whatever we can pull off from a grain standpoint, that's great, that's cash, that's revenue. But make sure we have all the forage we need for the livestock and integrate.
And then sell the rest of it.
And sell the rest of it. But integrate the livestock into the land. So everything that we seeded was intercrop. Not all of it was like harvested and separated, like the oats and peas.
Yeah.
A lot of it was like oats, Italian ryegrass, harvest the oats. The Italian ryegrass is green and established underneath. Once the oats are combined, it'll come back, kick the cows out.
Graze them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corn and I guess I should say we're shifting it out of our rotation, but corn and forage soybeans and vetch was a big part of the last 5 years too. We combined the corn, sold it wet to feedlots, and we were just able to utilize a phenomenal amount of grazing days with the corn and forage soybeans.
So let me ask you this, and it just popped into my head, because I want to get back to this, and I know Travis is a big part of this as well,
Big
and
part.
everything that came, but do you still sell your cattle in a traditional manner?
Kind of.
Because I heard this crazy guy, I think he's up in Dauphin or Neepawa, that has created a meat locker or something, like, or a meat vending machine somewhere up there,
The guy you're going to have on your podcast, maybe after this one, Jason Mock, was the original guy that came up with that idea. I'm not familiar with who you're talking about. I don't know if we're going to get to other business venture ideas.
Right, we will for sure.
But the direct marketing side of things, if this lovely business didn't exist, probably would have been something that I looked at. Currently, we do market traditionally to livestock auction barns, but a little bit more strategic than we did it 5 years ago. We're always trying to sell overvalued animals and keep or reinvest in undervalued animals.
Right.
Now, but it just ends up at a traditional auction mart, but whereas we used to market livestock, when do we need cash? And we always needed cash.
Yeah, of course.
So
now you've gone away from that. It's kind of like buying fertilizer when nobody else is, or buying, it's like anything else.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't try to avoid selling when everyone else is selling. And
try to avoid buying when everybody else is buying too.
And if you've got something high valued that you can liquidate that, and there'll be something in the marketplace that's undervalued. Reinvest your money back into that.
Okay, so back to because it just popped in my head. I was like, man, I wonder if he's selling his cows the same as everybody else, which you are, but you aren't.
Yeah,
you're selling it maybe more strategically, but to
the same marketplace.
Yeah. For now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Jason Mock. I don't even know who this guy is.
You're gonna love him.
I've got to reach out to him and have him on the podcast. I can't wait to hear his story. But okay, so when did you decide, like, hey, this is really, and it is one of the beauties of agriculture. I've said this for years, is in pretty much every other industry, when somebody has a good idea, they don't share that. They're like, I'm gonna get rich, I'm gonna get rich, I'm gonna get rich. In farming, when somebody has a good idea, they tell everybody about it. They wanna share it. They want everybody to do well out of it. Where did Covers & Co. come from? Like, so what year, because I've known about this for probably 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if it started in 2020.
Yeah, 2020, March 7th, 2020.
March, yeah. Isn't that great that you know the exact date that you
it's
incorporated?
because on March 15th, COVID lockdowns, and we were shit scared.
Right. So where did the idea come for Covers & Co.? What was the idea, and how was Travis involved? Go.
Yeah, so the idea came that crop, because I was obsessed with that crop, and I was calling Trav and being like, you're not going to believe what the hell's going on out here. Because he had the soil test in front of him, and I'm sending him pictures, and Trav had a full-time job at the point. He was living in Winnipeg, and Trav on weekends was coming out to like it was a child coming out to spend time.
To lay in the field with you?
Yeah. So, and this was at a time when like fertilizer prices were insane high, and both Trav and I, we didn't know it at the time, but we were like, there is something here. So in 2019, we basically took the trial, made it bigger, started doing more soil testing, documenting everything along the way. We didn't necessarily know that there was a business idea here. We just knew we need to do our part in the soil health movement and document this and go tell everybody, this is a no-brainer. You've got to be doing this on your farm.
So you weren't, when you started doing those soil tests and documenting, you weren't doing it for a business. You wanted to do it to say to other people like, hey, guys, this is what happened on our farm. You should try it on your farm.
This is how magical the soil health movement was in the 2010s. We were obsessed with it. We wanted to do it just so we could tell our friends about it, right, and go to the conferences and show pictures and get people excited. It was a powerful time in my life, because the group of friends that I met, my soil health brethren, I call them. I mean, those are lifelong friendships. We've been through the trenches together, right, all from like different geographies where we didn't have a local community, and so all of our neighbors are talking shit about us, but we had each other.
Right.
Yeah, that was an awesome time. But no, there was no business idea. In fact, end of 2019, we had a business idea to help push the movement forward, but it was not this. We had a website idea called Intercrop Alliance, and the idea was farms would intercrop, we'd get them to record their data, and then we'd put it in an intercrop data set. So if it was like oats and peas, we could get 15 different farms information under oats and peas. We could do what they did for fertilizer rates, everything, and have some really powerful visual data visualization, and just trying to push the movement forward and like show people, hey, this intercropping is a good idea. So in 2019 or 2020, I forget what it was, we needed like $10,000 for data visualization for our intercrop website. So I was, at this point, I was doing hundreds of acres of these full season cover crops with my mix mill. And I said to Trav, I'm like, well, here's an idea. I'll just mix up like 10 or 15 more ton in my mix mill, and we'll just sell it to some of our buddies, and we'll get 10 grand, and we can invest it in the website. So Trav
Wait a minute. That was your plan? You were just going to sell to your buddies, mix it up yourself, and that's what's going to pay for your new business and your website?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, that's freaking awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Trav went out, it was like a day, or maybe it was like a week, and he's like, I got a bit of an issue here. There's like, I think I sold like 40 ton. And I'm like, 40 ton? And I had talked to some buddies, they were all really interested, and it didn't take very long before we realized,
oh shit, this was actually the business idea?
Yeah, oh yeah, this was the better idea.
Right. The other idea might still be good.
Oh, we've got a trademark.
To then promote this, right?
Well, you know what? The other idea is a great idea. The biggest holdup is in intercropping. From an economics, from a risk standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. We just don't have enough education on how to do it. And if canola is $24, just grow canola.
Right.
But if canola is $10,
or if China puts 100% tariff on canola,
this makes a ton of sense to start. Farming's risky. If you can reduce that risk by growing 2 different crops in the same field with less inputs, that's a good idea. So not going to be spending a lot of time on Intercrop Alliance, but perhaps someday in the future.
So that is so funny. I mean, that is just a typical business startup story where you went to do something else.
Yeah.
And then this just slammed you and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like this is the idea.
Yeah.
So at what point did Travis quit his job?
Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. So now we fast forward to spring of 2020. So we incorporated March 7th. We were in COVID lockdown. We were getting lined up to, I think we were blending 60 or 70 ton. And Trav's bosses, I think at the time, had caught wind that he's spending a decent amount of time doing this other thing. I think we had a website at the time. So we didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. We had enough money to buy some seed, and we were just going to kind of grow it organically for a year or 2. But COVID hit, and Trav got the call that said, you don't work here anymore. And I remember that day like it was yesterday, because obviously he was shook and that was not the plan at all. And all we did was we got in his truck and we drove around, talked about life, what we wanted out of it. Is this something we even want? This is going to be a grind. Should we do it? And came out of that truck ride. It was like 6 hours long, and we said, "Fuck it,
let's go." That's so cool, man.
And it was, I think if we knew the reality of the hardships, I think he probably would have just went and found another job.
I don't know, man. Like yes, I mean, you're obviously resilient, and I've played ball with you and against you, so I know how competitive you are. So I don't think the hardship would scare you. I think you're right. A lot of people don't. They would look at this now or look at you and be like, oh man, like they have no idea how hard it was to get to this point. But I don't know that it would have scared you. I also played hockey with Travis. I know what a competitor he is. So that I don't think you would have been scared off. You maybe would have went for another 6-hour drive and talked about what those battles would be. But I think you probably still go for it. So let's talk about that a little bit. So he gets fired, I guess, for moonlighting with you. And you guys decide, fuck it, we're going to make this something. Did you already have the name, Covers & Co?
No,
okay,
it was...
so where did that come from?
While just writing name on name on name on name. It was, we were a few months before we actually, I think we had the name, but so happy we picked this. We were going to be Soil Health something or Regenerative Ag Seeds or something. Yeah. It's just, I love the name. And I love I mean, it's Covers, but the Co, I mean, obviously meaning company, but more like company like plant diversity and people, you know, like the inclusion of it. So obviously very biased. I love the name.
Yeah, I love that. So what was those first couple years that, you know, Travis is now full-time doing this, you're farming and full-time doing this.
Yeah, it was at that time, 2020, where I was doing this 80 or 100 hours a week, and if I could find some daylight hours during the week, that's great, but a lot of my farming happened, you know, Saturday nights and Sundays that I was home. I leaned on my old man and my brother a lot.
When did your brother come back and get involved?
So he's a teacher, so he and his partner Derek's a teacher as well. So they were spending summers on the farm, just working for free, helping out.
Amazing.
So absolutely amazing. And
so not only have you tapped into the senior labor market, you've tapped into the teacher labor market.
Absolutely.
So smart.
Oh, well, so fortunate is what I am. And Sheldon, by 2021, I realized I'm being ripped 18,000 directions at once. I'm gonna need some help here at home. And awesome, man. I'm like, if you can, I mean, it would be one thing if both of us were waking up every day and working on the farm, because there's room for tension with everyone. Yeah. But we both have other things and just appreciate the hell out of each other. You know what I mean?
On the farm.
Yeah, you betcha. And it's time we get to spend together. How many people get to spend their free time with their dad and brother working together? You know? Yeah. It's awesome.
That's so cool, man. I love your outlook on life and just like your energy and your excitement for not only what you're doing, but what other guys are doing and how you're changing land and just the opportunities you get. I don't want to skip past how hard those first couple years were. I mean, we had a brief conversation when you came and spoke at the Thanks for Farming tour.
I owe you all the credit in the world, Jamie, because you changed my life.
How is that even possible?
Well, because how Trav and my relationship works is, a lot of people think it's my company. It's not. We are 50-50 business partners, and he has put as much blood, sweat, and tears into it as I. He just does all the behind-the-scenes stuff, and I'm kind of the front man. So a lot of what I still do, to be honest, is just be out giving presentations, being at trade shows, meeting new dealers, signing them up, talking to customers, and a lot of that came with alcohol. And I was going through stressful times at a startup business, trying to farm, not doing a very good job at other things in life. And I think we were on a webinar or a Zoom call, and I didn't know you that well, and you made a comment that you look like shit or something like that. Wow. And you had made the comment that that you had given up booze, and I thought I maybe can give that a try. I'm a year and a half sober. My life just keeps getting better.
No shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that choice came from just a comment that made me look like shit. I don't remember making that comment or why we were Zooming, but I mean, I remember, so I think it was 2023. So I guess it was right around Thanks for Farming Tour.
Yes, that's what it was.
We were probably zooming about that.
That's what it was.
Yeah. But I remember challenges
Yep.
that are still facing you.
Yep.
You've had challenges you've overcome, but the challenges change. That's what before we were so spoken loudly, yelled over. The challenges have changed as you've gone on. So what's been the biggest challenge in the last couple of years, and what do you see as your biggest challenge moving forward?
Yeah. So last couple of years, a ton of changes. We've had some stakeholders leave the business. Trav and I had another business partner that kind of took care of the production side. He wanted to, I mean, we were all busy. He wanted to spend his time farming, and all for it. Mark's a great guy. Still get along great with him. But so then it was Trav and I. We had a skeleton crew, and it wasn't a great time in our life, I'll be honest, because we were still doing everything, had all the risk, growing, taking every single phone call. So we started hiring, and it was scary because we'd hired some duds before, but basically we started hiring people. We didn't give a shit what your education was. We didn't care what industry you're coming from. All we wanted was, you've got a passion for the same thing we're passionate about. And that was, the business took a corner at that point. Karen came on as a logistics, or I think we hired her as an office manager. She is now managing all of our logistics. She does all of the company HR and 8 million things. The podcast would be 2 hours long if I listed everything Karen did. The next thing we did, we hired our Alberta territory manager. The guy is cut from a different cloth. First generation farm, which I think is just such an interesting perspective and an interesting passion, because he didn't have 30 years of this is how you farm. And then after that, we hired a Saskatchewan territory manager. I got to give him a shout out, Dakota Odgers. He came on as a territory manager, built the territory, developed amazing relationships with our dealers. He now does all of our research projects. And the guy that's here with me at the show today, Connor English from Manitoba, young producer, he's been following around the soil health movement since I've been seeing him at conferences. We were 18. So that has been an amazing change, absolutely amazing, because I used to have the worst anxiety if Trav was, maybe he'd taken the weekend off. That didn't happen very often. And I was farming or something. Nothing was happening in the business, and
that just drive you crazy.
Oh, it weighs on you. And now I pop in our Slack and I can see 10 people are doing, out there.
How cool
spreading
is that?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that comes with challenges too.
Responsibilities.
Mostly for myself. Well, it's like I care deeply about these people. They're not my coworkers. They are very important people in my life. And not that the responsibility is a burden by any stretch, but I went from a farmer to entrepreneur to now a manager, and I don't know if I know I'm good at public speaking and talking about cover crops. I don't know if I'm good at managing people,
Right.
So those have been.
I think you're good at caring about people, though, Joe, and that's honestly that's what it is. I mean, you can see that in every facet. You can see how much Connor respects and appreciates you too, and how passionate he is. Like yesterday, he was like, "Oh, you got to follow this guy on Twitter, follow this guy on Twitter." So he clearly knows.
When I look at that kid, not that we don't look alike at all, but just when he talks, I think you were me 10 years ago.
So how do you leverage him then to help push this forward? Right, like.
We've got plans for everyone in the company. They're all amazing in what they do, but from a different and unique skill set. So we've got plans for them all. And as this company grows, each one of those territory managers and our crew back at home, they've got some they're going to give us some amazing opportunities going forward.
So what's the biggest challenge as you sit here on March? I mean, geez, you just literally turned 5. Congratulations. This week.
Oh, really? What's the date today?
It's like the 10th or 9th
Oh,
or
shit.
something.
I usually send Trav a text on the 7th. I completely forgot about it. It's been a great week.
Yeah.
yeah, just turned 5, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. What's the challenge that you see this year, 2025, and then what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge in the next 5 years for Covers & Co. and Joe Gardiner?
Well, the Joe Gardiner one's tough. I got a pretty great life.
Yeah.
And one thing about growing a business at the scale we did, we don't have an outside investor. We don't have any long-term debt. We have operating. But if you've been on the mat, on the floor, and can get off of it, everything looks easy after that.
Right, okay.
But from a business standpoint, the challenges we're going to have is, I mean, now we have this absolutely amazing crew, and it's opening the door into a dark room that you don't know is there. I mean, we've got a decent idea, but we're going to diversify our product line. We're going to absolutely amplify our research projects. And these don't sound like challenges to me. These are just really exciting.
Every time I ask you a question, you spin it into a positive, and you're excited about it. It's like, come on, there's got to be something that scares you.
Well, the positivity of it, there will be challenges. I always tell people, I'm like, there's no good news in business. There's no bad news in business. It's just news, and you just deal with it. You solve the problem, and you carry on. Now, for challenges with growth, I'm sure we still up to this point, like we've had some phenomenal years, and that money, all we do is recycle it back. We are still at a point where cash is always tight. And inventory risk increases now. Every year we get a little better at forecasting. Banks get a little more cool with giving us money. There are going to be challenges from a growth standpoint. We'll swing and miss. I'm positive on a few things, but scares me. I used to get scared. Trav would have a down day, and I know if my mental health wasn't great, that was terrifying because I could feel us teetering on the edge. It doesn't scare me in the slightest knowing the team that we have now, because how resilient we are, the difference in skill sets, the passion, the ideas. This company is, for 5 years, I just hoped, I'm like, is there going to be a time where we've made it? Like where I don't have this feeling of imposter syndrome that this is all going to blow up in our face. We've done that. We've made an impression. We've created a good enough team that it's like we can get 100% tariffs, and I'm absolutely confident in the crew that we have that everyone else is going to face those same challenges. We have a better team. We have better brand. We have better education. We have better marketing. This company is
clearly you're in a better space mentally.
Big time.
So I don't want to breeze over that. The impact that quitting drinking has had on you, your business, I'm sure your family. So here's what I know about growing up in a small town, and everybody's having beers, going to the neighbors for beers, going to the ball for beers. You have beers all the time. It doesn't mean
every time you leave the farm, and I was having lots of beers on the farm.
Right. So what has, crazy hard for you to just walk away from that and to not have beers? What's that been like? And let's talk about what that's been like, and then what's been the response in your community to you deciding to do that? Not because you had an accident or rehab or any of these things, just, I'm going to quit.
Yeah. Well, basically it came down to I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't drunk per se, you're never your best after 8 beers. You're a little bit tired. You don't feel inspired. You're there to get through the day. You're not making those calls, those progressive calls, the tough calls you put off. It's just your life's worse.
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me that he's I don't know what he is, 15 or 20 years sober. He's like, alcohol is the only thing you can quit and your life gets better. And that is the truest thing in the world. My sleep has gotten better. My relationships with all the people I love have gotten better. Now, there's some things that suck.
Right.
Never do you feel better after 6 or 8 beers, but that's fine. The other 23 hours a day, I'm just a way better person because of it. And man, from a business standpoint, even when things are going good, shit rises to the top. Yep. You deal with every single problem in the business. I just didn't want to do it hungover anymore. I didn't want to have to drink 6 or 8 beers to feel good. Right. And that's what it was. So it's not that I was a degenerate and cracking beers at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's just I was cracking beers at 9 o'clock at night, and rather than going to bed at 10, I was going to bed at 2 and maybe had 15. And it was a lot of fun, but the next day sure wasn't.
Right. And your energy, your positivity, your whole vibe has changed. Not that you've ever been like a down person, but like it's crazy how much it's changed. And so kudos to you for that. What's been the response on the ball team?
Yeah.
And in the community, right? That Joe's not drinking anymore.
Oh yeah, off the start it was, and I actually did. I went 3 months and a baseball playoff win. I had a relapse for a couple months, but that was fine. I mean, it happens. I'm not too hard on myself. But yeah, there was some adaptation for me off the start, and of course the guys are going to bust your balls.
Of course,
but they do it because they care, you know.
Right.
And now it's nothing. Now the guy that shows up with the beer brings a non-alcoholic case, and it's great. It's the exact same as it was before. I'm just not driving home drunk.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Not that you ever did that. If anybody's listening.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. But so one of the things that was crazy for me, I was sitting in the dressing room with the group I play hockey with, and we were talking. They all know, and it's funny because, you know, for me it wasn't the booze as much as it was the weed, and so I used to get high before I go skate, right, or whatever, you know, and so the joke was that I'm way more intense now when I play hockey, right? Like I used to have maybe the edge off, so I wasn't like, now I'm like, right, and they're like. So for a while the joke was like, hey, maybe we should slip Jeremy something, you know, and calm him down a little bit because I get a little too revved up. But,
you more revved up? That would be intense.
Oh man, I can't fucking control it either. Like it's just like, oh, let's go. These are all my buddies, but it doesn't matter. It's like I want to win. And but one of the things that one of the guys said, it was right before Christmas. It was like December, and I was talking about, I think I'm gonna do another sober year. And the guy's like, well, how could you not? Like, I don't think you'll ever go back. Like,
yeah.
So for you,
well, I wanted to get through a year.
Yeah.
And just to say, I could get through a year, and always throughout that year, I had it in the back of my mind. I'm like, I just want to control myself enough so I can go and have a couple beers and not it turn into 15. And then I got to a year and I was like,
yeah,
why?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, not even another one. I'm like, I'll tell you a quick story, and I want to give you a lot of thanks because our Field of Dreams fundraiser that we did this year, you guys were so kind in helping us sponsor, and you had your team down for the day. But my summer student that summer, he worked like an absolute dog to get that field going. He's an 18-year-old kid. And he's wise beyond his years. He's like a 40-year-old man, and the odd time he'd say something dumb, and I'd be like, why did you say, oh right, you're 18 years old. But like an 18-year-old, he likes to go partying, and he's, let's have some beers. And no. So when the Field of Dreams ended, the last job Jason and I had, fireworks done, baseball's done, we dragged out the fire pits, lit the fires, and that was a summer of work done right there. And I thought it would mean a lot to Jace if I had one beer with him, because he knows I know how much that would mean to him. So anyway, I said to Jace, I went and bought 2 beers. I gave him one. And I said, this is for you. And I cracked the beer. I took a sip. It tasted awful. Absolutely awful. And I thought, why am I going to choke this down? I know it only gets better. So I set that thing down. And I thought, I think I beat this thing.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. It's hard, and I imagine the impact that you've had in your community and in your bigger right?
Yeah.
With that, and I certainly, I'm sure that there'll be somebody listens to this. If they listen to all of this and get this far, there'll be somebody that's like, holy crap, that will change. And I think that that's the key. I don't think people realize the clarity and confidence that you can get when you know you're right up here.
Oh yeah, 100%. I just didn't want it to influence my decision-making process.
Yeah.
Because making some tough decisions, I wanted to be as clear thought.
Yep.
I didn't want to have anxiety, to have any metric in any way, shape, or form in the decisions I was making. Whereas if I'm tired and I'm hungover, I've got my anxiety voice in
And
my
you're
head.
emotional.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So how is your anxiety? Because that's something you shared with me before, that you know, anxiety is something that's played a part for you in your life and like throughout all of this. How has that changed?
Night and day.
Yeah.
I still, I don't like the term battling with anxiety, because I'm not a bad person, and I've lived with anxiety helping my decision-making processes from day one, or whenever, like,
right.
my conscious being, or I was conscious of my being. I'm thankful for anxiety, my warning system, but it just doesn't play a factor in my decision-making processes now. Whereas for 15 years, I was making decisions for my anxiety.
Right.
Whereas now I can hear the anxious voice in my head, but it's a quiet one, and I can say, hey, thank you for the warning, appreciate it, I'm making this decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool, man. That's super cool. So let's segue. We've talked about some really important things. I need to know though, what are some other crazy ideas that you have? Because Connor had said, make sure you ask him about this other business idea that he would do if he wasn't doing this. And I appreciate how your brain works. So give me a couple other ideas that you have that you think are just like, why is nobody doing this?
Well, you will back me up on this one. Entrepreneurial life, it's a disease.
It is.
Isn't it?
You can't
it's
quit
just,
it. Yeah.
Well, it's like
Totally.
thinking about if this wonderful thing that we created ever ended, going and working for somebody
You'll
else
never do it. No.
and a 9-to-5 job.
Never happen.
It never ever happen. And then you get introduced to some concepts and some smart business people, and you can't help but be a sponge, because it's your life. It's applicable to everything you've worked for. So then you start looking at some different things, and you're like, I could do that. But the one that my wife and I spent 2 weeks in Guatemala, and I love my wife more than anything, and she doesn't get to see me very much. So the deal is, first 2 weeks of January, I don't even ask where we're going, but I carry the luggage, and whatever she wants to do, we do. But it's an amazing time for me because there's no cell phone, there's no anything. I eat healthy, I sleep really, really good. I mean, not boozing was a game changer this time, but I can clear thoughts and allow my brain to think about whatever it wants. And it just so happens that it focuses on business and ideas a lot. So I always have my notebook with me, and so I've done this for 3 or 4 years now, and just start writing ideas and let my brain take me where it wants to. And I think there's a really cool opportunity from a direct marketing our beef standpoint. I must have 100 pages in my notebook.
You don't have to share it. Don't share it. Keep it.
Oh, you know what, Jeremy? I do not mind. Hopefully, if somebody's watching this still, or this late in it, here's something I've learned: ideas are cheap. Execution is much tougher. But I like the idea of having a steakhouse where you have a customer that is sitting at your establishment. You got 2 hours to educate them. So if you can have a really amazing, well-educated staff and sell them on an experience of this beef you're eating is raised on cover crops, and it's going to taste a little bit different than what you're used to, but here's why: we're going to heal the land, we're going to heal the water cycle, and focus on the experience for that person with education, and then it's actually two businesses because because then that customer leaves and they ask a question. It's like, well, I want to do good. I want better quality meat. I want meat that's raised without antibiotics, hormones, on cover crops, helping heal the land. And well, go next door to the butcher shop and we'll hook you up with whatever the hell you need. So I like the concept of pairing it where the customer acquisition cost is absorbed by a restaurant side and focusing on experience and making that person feel good, and then making them a lifelong customer with having a meat shop.
So now I'll challenge you and say, how do you do that digitally so you can expand this across the world? Because the problem is you could do that in Winnipeg.
Oh yeah.
Right? And I'm sure you would do well. And that would take care of some people in Winnipeg. But how do you do it? Like, because I think and that's one of the things that, you know, as I talk to other people that are in ag, that I say, like, we need to not, like, I think farmers will see what you're doing. They'll look at the data. They'll understand what you're doing. They might not agree with it right off the bat. But over time, as farming becomes harder, as 100% tariffs come in, as all of these things, they're going to start adapting some of these practices. But how do we educate the people that are living in the fucking duplex in Bellevue, Washington, that don't have a damn clue about the land, anything agriculture, the food they eat? They listen to someone that tells them that, you know, like, you can't do this, or you have to do this, or you don't do this, or you 100% do this. How do we get to those people?
Yeah, I heard some very, very exciting statistics on my flight here. I was listening to a webinar with Alan Williams, who, if you guys are watching this, look up Alan Williams and Gabe Brown. And I don't know who did the study or whatnot. They were just referencing these numbers. In 2020, 12% of America had heard the term regenerative agriculture. In 2021, 24%. And it basically had doubled. Where we are at the point now where 60% of people not
in the last 4 years
have heard of it, but are understanding why this is important.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound overly optimistic, but that is true grassroots at its core, where now the consumer is absolutely fundamentally going to be demanding it. This is a tidal wave that is moving across the food production industry, and we can't, in agriculture, we have to stop dictating to consumers what is good for you.
Right.
Where is that getting us?
Nowhere.
Imagine you going to a customer of yours and saying, no, you're buying this concave because you don't know a damn thing.
No, just kidding. No, you're 100% right.
And so if the customer is demanding it, they have the money.
Right.
We are the ones. So if the customer is saying, hydrogenated canola oil, I have some concerns about that, our response should not be, you idiot consumer, I'm feeding you, just shut up, take the hydrogenated canola oil I give you and be grateful. Say thank you, Mr. Farmer. We need to stop that attitude.
Right.
These people are demanding this. A blind man can see what direction this is going. We need to start educating ourselves to get more in line with our end consumer, because they're gonna soon start speaking with their dollars. And that's going to make our farms more profitable.
So is it education then back to the farmers that's most important?
Yes.
Or is it education to the end consumer?
I think the end consumer is being educated. Now it's a snowball it was pushed up the hill.
Yeah.
It is the roll down has started. There is enough information. Here's the thing. I struggle with this myself. Conventional farming, when I was a kid, went to university, they told me everything I was doing was right, that's what you got to do. I conventionally farmed for 10 years. It did not work for me, but I still have to chip away at my conventional brain.
Right.
You know, a consumer does not have that. I explain what we do to somebody that has nothing to do with farming, and you know what they say to me? Well, that just makes sense.
Right.
Look how easier it is to educate that person than somebody who's been doing it for 40 years, and they're like, well, it's not going to grow anything if you don't use fertilizer. Right. Well, we're growing 15 species. How do I do an in-crop herbicide? You know, I'm going to grow oats and peas. Yeah, it shows on the budget. It's going to be less risk, more financially profitable. How do I separate it?
So how many enemies do you have?
I don't have enemies.
No, I'm serious. So like the fertilizer companies, the herbicide companies, all of those people can't be happy with what you're doing.
Jeremy, I people do ask me this question. 400 million years, Mother Nature has been growing plants on planet Earth. Where have you ever seen her do that in a monocrop? I get loads of calls from agronomists that were like, sat in your presentation, note, didn't ask one question during the presentation, but I'm going to call you the next day and tell you what an idiot you are. What's the pushback? That we've lost 75% of our winged insects in the last 20 years? What? That is a fact. And I'm saying that's a bad thing, and that will collapse our food system. What are you going to say?
Right.
Right. Mother Nature has been growing plants in diversity for 400 million years. That is the most economical way to capture sunlight and water. What are you going to say? Mycorrhizal fungi is the oldest specimen on planet Earth. It literally allowed the being of plants to be here. It is a communication network in the soil, and I don't think fungicides are going to help promote mycorrhizal fungal growth.
Right. So now they're going to hate. Now they're going to hate me too because I let you come on and say that.
Is that
I'm just kidding.
Is that controversial though?
It's not controversial, but people make billions of dollars. That's where I'm saying people are going to hate you, not because you're wrong, but because you're showing and shining a light for other people to say, hey, we can do this differently. We can do this better. You don't have to spend all that money.
I guess then the answer to that question is I don't care.
Right. That's what I thought the answer was going to be, is that you don't care. I just wondered how many they were.
Well, the sad thing about the ag industry, and I'm not talking about farmers here. I had a 2-hour conversation in this trade show yesterday with a producer that had came to a presentation that I put on earlier this week, came here to talk to me, and it's the same story I hear time and time again where, you know, I've got kids interested in farming, I'm going broke, not making enough money, farming's expensive. Any of the ideas that we talked about and talked through, he was so excited. And he's like, I just don't know what my agronomist is going to say. The farmers...
That's what he's worried about. The agronomist that he pays to do agronomy on his farm, he's worried about what he's going to say back to him. That's crazy.
And he wanted me to have a 3-way meeting because he's like, I'm going to tell him I'm going to try and tell him these things you told me, but he's like, I don't know how to communicate with that, and he's a really smart guy. But farmers are demanding it. It's industry that has, because Charlie Munger, you know that is Warren Buffett's, he's dead now, but he's got a great saying. Tell me the incentive, I'll tell you the outcome. Well, all we incentivize in agriculture, right from crop insurance to the coffee shop, is yield. Yield, 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 yield. What'd your oats run? Oh, 270. Did you make money?
Yeah.
Does anyone ever ask that?
So it's profit. That's what you're saying.
It's profit. Yeah. And the farm knows that. It's the industry that doesn't give a shit if you make money or not. They want you to grow a whole bunch of yield. If you're losing money, well, I did my job. You grew a bunch of yield. I don't know what you want me to do about that.
Right, go borrow more.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, that's powerful. It's crazy. So as you were thinking here, I'm going to tell you about a crazy idea me and Dirty T had.
Nice.
So we call it the Thunder Farm. And our thought is to create a big farm. Like, you know, not that we want, I would love to farm. Probably will never farm, but this Thunder Farm becoming a proving ground for different ideas, different equipment, different technology from all around the world. Document it, turn it into like a reality TV type series, have all of these companies that are actually, you know, paying to be on it, and then taking everything that's grown and donating it, you know, to a food bank or something like that, or selling it and then donating that money back to food bank or whatever else. So we may have to collaborate on something someday.
Well, I was literally just going to say this. So we had everyone in the company do you got to do a 5-year goal personal, professional, farm, because most of them do farms. So anyway, I did mine, and just thinking about the next 5 years, I'm like, I want to spend, not that I don't love being here, talking to farms, presenting, sharing the good word. I do, but we're just very fortunate. We've got people in the company that can do as good of a job at that as me. I want to get my headspace back to, and this is where I'm going with this, is we've got a summer student lined up, and we are starting a research farm, and we're going to have some core principles, but basically we're not going to use any synthetics of any kind. That's going to be the rule of the farm, but utilize plant diversity, new blends, integrating livestock. And you got a crazy idea, I want to hear about it because I want to see it grow on my farm, in front of my eyes.
You want to go lay in it. You want to go lay down 100%, in the ground and listen
absolutely.
To it.
But make it a place where crazy ideas come.
Totally. And idea, like I was telling you yesterday about that company that I saw at AgriTechnica that had a flail mower / cover crop seeder / land roller all in one. And I was like, dude, and they wouldn't even give me the time of day. So, it was funny. I was like, man, I think there's a market for this in North America. And they're like, you are too small. Okay, well, someday I'm going to be big enough. But,
and I'm going to come back here.
Yeah. But I do think there are ways to do things that are different than what we've always done it. You brought an idea up yesterday, which you guys will have to stay tuned for, because I'm going to go find it in Germany this year at AgriTechnica. I'm going to bring some
I do have
back.
one more for you, but I'll share it after.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So I've asked everybody on here that has come on this podcast, and I might actually end it, because I was thinking to myself that I might not ask this question anymore, but I'm going to ask it anyways. And I've had some great answers. So the question is weapon of choice. I think I know what yours is. I think I know the weight and the length, but it might not be. But like Merdat, his was his charisma. I've had there's people's compassion. I've had, I think Sharky's was like a 30-06 gun. Quick Dick was a sickle. Like all of these different, but weapon of choice. What is your weapon of choice? It can be anything. It can be a cover crop. It can be literally anything. Weapon of choice.
Passion.
Yeah.
And for anyone that is watching this, not just business, but business, it is absolutely critical. If you don't have passion in what you're doing, you will fail. There are too many hard days that you'll say, fuck this, I can go work 9 to 5 for $80,000 a year and I don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Find something that you're passionate about and do that absolutely as good as you can. It'll make a better. We get 80 years maybe if we're lucky. If we're lucky, do you not want to spend that time doing something you really, really care about?
Totally.
It's life changing if you can do it.
So that's the lesson here. So that's probably, I've also asked people, like, what would you tell your 20, I don't know how old you are, probably 35. I don't know what
Thank you. 30. I'm going to be 38 soon.
Are you? Yeah, I figured you were in your 30s still. But what would you tell your 20-year-old self? And is it to be passionate? Chase your dreams, be passionate? Yeah.
I mean, 20-year-old Joe was probably how 30-year-old Joe had to quit drinking. But 20-year-old Joe was pretty similar to most 20-year-olds, just insecure, not sure about their place in life, but just, man, be passionate. Those things, probably I shouldn't, 20-year-old Joe found baseball's sabermetrics, and probably this was a better career choice for me than that. Yeah. But maybe I would have been fine.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, of course, man. Yeah, I think that would be great advice for 20-year-old Joe, because there was a lot of shit, Joe, that I did. You hate to say wasted time, because you met people, you had an awkward experience that better suited you for life. You had a breakup, you were like, I'm never getting over this. Yeah. My life's over. But yeah, I'd say the passion one's a pretty good one. Yeah. Trust yourself and
trust the process.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's super cool. Man, we're gonna probably do this one again at a different time, but that was super cool.
I appreciate it, Jeremy.
Okay, before we leave, because I was supposed to end that, but I thought about this and now I just remembered.
Okay.
Somebody who doesn't know anything about this, who are 10 people that they need to go follow on Twitter, other than Covers & Co.
Yep.
Because you mentioned a bunch of people, and I wanted to give an opportunity so that we can tag those people as well, so that people can go learn about them. Who are the 10 people?
God, okay, so it's been so long since I've been on Twitter that I don't know, but just people
out there, they Google. Give me 10 names.
Well, the godfather of this movement was Gabe Brown, and unfortunately the man has been diagnosed with ALS, so he is not going to be with us forever, but he has left a lasting legacy, this company of which would not happen without him. His business partner at Understanding Ag, Alan Williams, is a brilliant mind. Actually, their other business partner, Ray Archuleta, is coming on our webinar in 2 weeks. All three of those guys are fantastic. Geez, I'm giving shout outs to our webinar, but it's starting to get good. Tuesday, we had Dave Pratt, ran Ranching for Profit for 20 years. Brilliant human being. Jason Mock, I think, is just, if we're talking Twitter, he's just, the guy's brain works 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's an entrepreneur at heart, got 15 different companies. If you don't have confidence in yourself to do an idea, you just got to watch that guy for about a day and you can realize this is possible. Other influencers, I guess the people that were important to me, I mean, in my early days, Alan Savory was a good one, founder of Holistic Management Canada, or Holistic Management, and the people at Holistic Management Canada, the Campbells, amazing human beings. Joel Salatin is a really good follow. I mean, there's some John Kemp, can't say enough about John Kemp, the Regenerative Ag podcast.
There's a lot of guys out there that are doing this.
And I Chris Nichols, Christine Jones, Nicole Masters. You want to get into my unbelievable core group that has kept me going, and we support each other. I got Nick Cowan, Nick Boundy, Darcy Stewart.
Darcy Stewart, the goalie.
Yes, you betcha, and my best friend. Chris and Brett Seymour, Ryan Boyd, all this community I have within Covers & Co. I could go on a long time.
So you mentioned webinars. You guys do this all the time, where you have webinars on. People can go watch those after the fact too,
absolutely,
right?
We got 5 years worth of webinars
on Covers & Co.
On Covers & Co.
Yeah.
So we've had most of the big people in the movement, but my favorite ones to do, I shouldn't say favorite. The idea with the webinar was, okay, we have crazy ideas, so rather than Joe just going on and talking about crazy ideas, we bring on other producers
that have crazy
ideas. So we pick one crazy idea, it might be bale grazing, and we bring on 3 producers that have done bale grazing for the last, sometimes it's somebody that's just starting, but then we have somebody that's done it for 25 years and somebody that's taken a different concept of it. Try and diversify, pick one topic, and then within the topic, diversify the different practices that go on. So rather than...
So it's learning all the time.
All the time. I'm a forever learner. What excites me about this industry is I know I can lay on my deathbed and know I didn't learn it all, which is great, because if I learned it all, I would be bored and have to move on to something else.
That's super cool, man. You are definitely not just a ball player, and I knew that already, but this was awesome. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Okay,
cool.
Now we're ending it.
Thanks.
That's it. Done.